men under my command who hadn't been worn down by the rigors of battlefield mayhem, and I was able to get them to charge up and support the folks who were trying to hold our position. And we were able to successfully rout the Confederates and send them into retreat, and we won that battle. And then I went to Tennessee, and we had success in Chattanooga, and we went to Alabama, and we had success in Mobile Bay. I was in charge of the ground forces, and Admiral Farragut was in charge of the naval forces. I would imagine I'm getting some nods out there because, you know, when you have a good sound bite, you have a good sound bite. Damn the torpedoes! Full speed ahead! I have learned in my travels around the 21st century that everybody knows that phrase and knows Admiral Farragut. But now I have my phrase, and it's just one word. It's called Juneteenth. So let's go to Juneteenth because eventually we're late in the war, and I get assigned to take several thousand troops to Galveston, Texas, to take charge of the Texas area. And in May of that year, we know that the order was, there was a surrender of those Confederate forces that were west of the Mississippi. And so we had the capacity to free the last remnants of enslaved people, and they were in Texas. So it fell under my command. And Phil Sheridan, some of you may remember General Sheridan, created this General Order Number 3. And, you know, there was some hope at that time that General Order 3 was penned, that it could be the beginning of the trend that was set in motion by General Sherman's Field Order Number 15. Now, Field Order Number 15, you might remember the idea of 40 acres and a mule, another soundbite. Well, 40 acres and a mule actually came to pass in that era just before my proclamation. 400,000 acres of land stretching from Charleston south to the St. Johns River in North Florida, including the Georgia Sea Islands, was turned over to Union sympathizers who were white and freed slaves. Very, very significant. And mules were lent to those people who got 40-acre plots in that swath of land from the U.S. military. So by Juneteenth, also known as June 19th, 1865, we have an opportunity to make sure that everybody knows that they're free. So let me take a minute and read that proclamation that I stood on the balcony of Ashton Villa and read. The people are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them become that between employer and hired labor. The freed are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. Now they say hindsight is 20/20. I spent quite a bit of time after being relieved of my command in Texas 1 month later. Yeah, that's right. To the day, I believe. I think it was July 19th. Sometimes my memory gets hazy on that. And I thought, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I can look for some opportunities to keep my rank, even though I've been relieved. And somewhere along the line, our president is assassinated. It was a sad day for America. It was a sad day for the advancement of freed slaves. And it was especially a sad day because the vice president, who became president, President Johnson, was one who was not particularly deeply opposed to slavery. He didn't support it, and he was a person who, in his defense, was a champion of the common man. And he was very, very, very concerned about the prospects of poor white folks in the South. I'm more concerned about poor white folks in the South than the recently freed enslaved people. So I thought, I need to get to know this guy. And so the trouble with that is, once again, maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe other people in the military who are still reeling from the assassination and pretty aware that there was going to be an impeachment of this president, that maybe the idea is to distance yourself from this president. But that's where my really smartness kind of didn't equate to political situations. It came in conflict with my personality, my roughness. So I even provided some support to President Johnson during the impeachment proceedings. Needless to say, after the war, I was still in the military. But, how did that go? Let me see if I can find it here. Did I include those in my notes? Let's watch this here. It's great in the 21st century how you can find things just by pressing a button. It's called Cousin Google. Let's see. I was a brigadier general on March 13th, 1865, and a major general on March 13th, 1865, also in the regular army. Must have happened quickly. But by 1866, I was a colonel in the 25th Infantry. This kind of motion up and down, is not uncommon, but especially for a person who's not very politically savvy, it was easy to happen. Now, I ended up getting married. I had a love affair with the true love of my life, who was French. I don't really talk a lot about that, but I did meet my wife, Maria, and I ended up getting posted back out on the western frontier in the same area. As a matter of fact, I'm there now in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I have the New Mexican Command. And all those years in the mid-1850s, when I was fighting Comanches and Apaches, that experience has come in handy. And one of the leaders of the Comanche who I've had a lot of dealings with lately is a person that I think a lot of Americans might know as Cochise. But I'm also not well. Not well. I don't know how long I'm...
We have a doctor in the house.
I understand. We know well about doctors in the military. Is that one of those ones that has a revolver on one hip and a saw on the other hip? I mean, that kind of doctor?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't take the saw and want to cut open my lungs, but, you know,
Thank you,
my
General
lungs are
Granger.
good.
Thank you very much, General Granger. We appreciate it. For those of you who would like to speak with General Granger more, he's in the tent next door, and you can visit him over there. Maybe some of you